so much for being here. Hey, everybody. I am Dr. Ebony. Thank you so much for being here. This is the Women Empowered series, and tonight we're talking about body image and self-love, okay? So thank y'all so much for being here. Go ahead and share with your friends. Tell them to come on in the room. You come on in the room, and while you're here, let me know where you're joining me from. Let me know how you're feeling tonight. This is going to be a very kind of like juicy conversation. So I want to know how you're doing. I want to know where you're calling from. So let me know all of that great stuff. Y'all come on in. I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you, Lauren. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about. Hey, Maryland. Hey, Chicago. Thank y'all so much. So this is the Women Empowered series. March is Women's History Month, and the entire month of March, each week, I'm going to be bringing you a topic that we're going to discuss, a talk around empowering women. Last week, we were empowered to take off the cape and allow ourselves some rest. Tonight, we're going to be talking about body image and self-love and how we can free ourselves from a lot of the things that are holding us back as it relates to our bodies. Good. Hey, the Koi collection. Love to see you here. Thank y'all so much. Hey, Philly. Thank y'all so much for being here. So here's some housekeeping things, okay? If you're over on Facebook and you want to see my slides, because I am going to share some slides, you might want to go on over to Instagram. But if you're like, girl, I am totally okay listening to you just talk, I don't need slides, stay right where you are. If you're on Instagram, I see you coming in, I'm going to speak. But we're also going to be using slides over here. So if there's something that you put up that I cannot see, go ahead and put it down in the question box, the little comment bubble that has the question mark. Go ahead and put your questions there in case they get lost in the comments. So the way that this flows is that I'm going to provide you some information. I want you to ask questions as we go through. But if there's something that you want to hold until the end, put it in the question box, because it's going to be a little difficult for me to slide up and see all of your questions. So if you want your question to be seen over here on Instagram, put it in the box, okay? Put it in the question mark tab so that I can get to it. I'm going to go ahead and share my slides, and we're going to jump right into it. Feeling great. Got a workout in. Awesome, Cassandra. Thank you so much for being here. Now, is it Cassandra or Cassandra? Correct me. But thank y'all so much. So here we go. I don't know who that is trying to get in here, but they won't get in. So here we go. Can y'all see that okay? Yay! Looks so beautiful. So tonight we're going to be talking about body image and self-love. Here's what you can expect from our conversation. These are the topics that we're going to be discussing. The things that I think that are important, the importance of this conversation, why we're doing this, the factors that impact the body image, our eating behaviors, the over-critiquing of our bodies. Why do we do this? What is this about? Body positivity for them, but not me. And self-love is not a cure-all. Assessing your own values and areas for work. And I want y'all just to stay here with me. Let me introduce myself. Tell y'all who I am. I am Dr. Ebony. I am a licensed psychologist here in Texas. I am also a food relationship strategist. That is why this topic is so near and dear to me tonight, because I work with women all the time around helping us improve our relationship with food. A lot of people ask me when they think about food relationship strategists, they ask me what that is. And people automatically think that I'm teaching people how to eat. And I just want to, while y'all are here, I want to tell y'all a little bit more about what a food relationship strategist is. Think about it in terms of a relationship coach. A relationship coach does not tell you who you should date. They tell you how to show up healthy in that relationship. They teach you the skills to engage healthily with the other person or parties in the relationship. They teach you how to recognize what you're bringing to the table, how to recognize your patterns, how to choose people who can match that, how to choose people who can complement that. But they don't ever tell you who, okay? Relationship coach is not the same as a matchmaker. I'm not a health coach. I'm not a diet coach. I am a food relationship strategist, which means that we strategize for how you can show up healthy in your relationship to food. I don't tell you what to eat. I tell you how to show up healthy, okay? Those are two very different things, okay? So if y'all have any questions about that, y'all know where to put the questions, okay? Hey, Ophelia. Hey, Tamika. Thank y'all so much for being here. So these are the things that we're going to discuss, and we're going to just jump right on in. Why are we having this conversation? One thing that we need to understand is the historical context of body image issues. Typically, those are really riddled, really prominent in diet culture. I can't name a period in time of the history that I know where women's bodies have not been subjected to the critique and criticism of society, of men, of people. Can you think of a time when women's bodies were just ours? I'll wait. Can you think of a time, and I want y'all to talk to me, just because this is slides don't mean that y'all are in class. Talk back to me. Can you think of a time when your body, and not yours, women in general, bodies belong to just us? No, there hasn't been one. There hasn't been one as far back as I know to reach. Okay, our bodies have always belonged to what music is playing. I don't have any music playing. What music is playing? Do y'all hear music, or is that trolling? Okay, I don't have any music playing. Okay, y'all tell me if there's music. Okay, that was a little confusing. But yeah, so women's bodies have always been subjected. So when we have been the subject of when we've been the subject of people's opinions, okay, so that must have been a troll. Okay, so when we have heard so much of us being critiqued and other people's opinions, it is normal. So I want y'all to hear this. It is normal for us to be so critical of our bodies. And the reason we need to have this conversation, because a lot of people will tell you, listen, you just need to get it together and love yourself more. Well, when you've been the topic of other people's criticism, people have had more rights to your body than you've had to your own body. You would be conditioned to believe that your body was problematic. Okay, so throughout history, we've been conditioned to believe that our bodies are problematic. Fast forward to diet culture. Insert, let us tell you now how to be skinny, aka white. Then we're gonna help you cure all of your problems. You just need to be skinny, which historically, skinniness, thinness has been akin to whiteness. The skinnier you were, the more on the white and right side of things you were. And if y'all don't believe me, read Sabrina String's Fearing the Black Body, and I'm actually going to grab it for you. Okay? If you have not gotten this book, Sabrina String's Fearing the Black Body, I suggest that you do so. It provides historical context for why the black woman's body has been a subject of ridicule, disgust, grotesqueness over the years, and why diet culture has not been set up to benefit us. And because diet culture was set up to be everything other than us, it has trickled down to affect all of us. Let me say that again, because I don't really think we understand that issues that affect black people affect everybody, okay? Because the black woman's body wasn't good enough, subsequently, that has affected all of us. Now, none of us trust our bodies. None of us love our bodies. All of us find issue with our bodies. Okay, so historically, we have had issues. Diet culture continues to perpetuate the message that we just need to be skinny. And if we're not skinny, we need to try to get there. And if we're not getting there, then we somehow lack discipline. We somehow lack control. We somehow lack worth, and we somehow lack value. Like we don't love ourselves enough. So we want to be having these conversations because a lot of us at one time or another, and I want you to be really honest with yourself, has made your body about your worth and value that you have in this world. Okay? The way we've talked about it, the way we have described it, the way we have touched it, allowed it to be, we have connected that to our value and worth. And in order to be empowered, we've got to begin to sever those chains. Okay? Her name is Sabrina Strings. Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. Okay? Sabrina Strings. And if you have a question, you can DM me or put it in the question box, and I'll make sure to get you that information. But you can find this visiting her website, or you can find this on Amazon. The current impact and consequences of body image being such a huge topic of discussion have left many of us, honestly, not knowing how to trust our bodies. Not knowing how to trust our bodies, not feeling good in our bodies, passing that down to people who come after us, our children. The way that we talk about ourselves is impacted. We have eating disorders. We have binge eating disorders. We have women and people who are just not satisfied with the body that we have. Okay? Also, one of the reasons why it's important to have this conversation is because of representation. Most of the things that we see around body image issues historically has been for white bodies. Historically, all we've seen is eating disorders, body image issues being wrapped up in young whiteness. And when, as Black women, women of color, as we struggle with these very same issues, we began to internalize some wrongness as if we aren't supposed to feel that way. The only reason we feel that is because we don't see representation of that. This issue is affecting us, but when you don't see the representation of people who look like you who are struggling with this, you begin to other the issue and begin to internalize wrongness. Again, value, worth, something must be wrong with me. And then our medical industry largely dismisses and overlooks eating issues, body image issues that are present in people of color. Again, representation. Again, tolerance, right? Yes. So we have to make sure that we are aware that this issue is happening to us and amongst us. What also happens is that the minimization of issues based on fad, body types, and trends. Okay, so take a trip with me. Let's time travel a little bit, okay? Back in the 90s, the bodies that were appropriate are very different than the bodies that are appropriate now. Agree or disagree? Agree or disagree? If we just go to examine videos, the videos that we saw of women's bodies back in the 90s are very different than the bodies that we see here now. Based on that media is how, because music is a form of media, TV, newspaper, magazines, we begin to right or wrong our bodies. So based on the bodies that were present in the 90s, the people who were living in, during that time would judge their bodies and compare their bodies based on that body type being presented as the trend. Look at where we are now. And I just want you to be honest with yourself. There's no judgment here. I'm a part of this too. I've said these same things to myself. So I'm not talking at you. We're having a conversation because I'm with you in this. How many of us have said if we could just get Keisha Kayor's body, we'd be fine? How just me? Oh, okay. If it's just me, then I'll just say that, okay? How many of us said if I could just get this slim body and this big hip, then I'd be just fine? Most of us have said that because that is what we are being presented as appropriate. That is what we are being seen presented as beautiful, as the standard now. And that's a fad, that's a trend, because these bodies are going to change. And then there's going to be a new body type that's going to come later, okay? Also, there's this obsession now with thigh gaps, right? Cool. That's what's being presented. That's what we have. That's what we're shown, okay? She said, not me, I gave up. Yeah, because at some point, we either going to get it done or we going to give up. That's the thing, right? Or we just going to say, to hell with it, right? Even called out the measurements. Y'all with me. We all on the same page. But this is how many of the ways that we think about our bodies are structured. So think about manufacturing versus natural thoughts. A lot of the things that we think about our bodies are manufactured thoughts. Manufactured means man-made. Okay? Man-made. Man-made thoughts that we begin to manifest in reality by any means necessary, thus internalizing body image issues. Stress largely impacts our eating patterns and our body image issues. I was reading an article as I was preparing for this, where the author said that the higher women try to climb the career ladder, the financial ladder, the social ladder, the more stressed she becomes and the more internalized issues she has with her body and her ways of eating. The more, I won't even say successful because that's subjective, but the closer she was to her ideal reach in that ladder, the thinner she thought she had to be. Do y'all hear this? The higher up the woman climbed, the thinner she thought she had to be. Why don't men, y'all ever stop and think that when men, the opposite actually happens for men? When men climb, the higher they climb, the more it's looked at as successful that they gain weight, or great that they gain weight, or it's applauded, or like the opposite happens, right? But for women, we begin to internalize all that stuff and stress eat and then worry about our thinness, diet after diet after diet. The more we think higher up we are, because thinness has been conditioned and paired with success. So we're operating out of some biases and some implicit things, some internalized things that are going on without even knowing it. Excuse my dogs. Okay. Okay. So these are the things that I want us to be aware of, because these are the things that are happening that we might not really be aware is happening for us. Okay. So I'm going to go back because I want to share something. Okay, we'll stay here. Factors that impact body image and eating issues. You think society shuns weight gain no matter who it is? To a certain extent. And I'm happy that you brought up that point. To a certain extent. It really depends on who the person is. It really depends. And it really depends on what sector of society you're talking about. You've never seen men celebrated for weight gain? Okay. Maybe not weight gain, but weight size. So we don't know Rick Ross, right? We don't know Rick Ross. We don't know that Rick Ross was... Let me get my words together. How many men did you see throwing themselves at Lizzo versus how many women threw themselves at Rick Ross? How many women threw themselves at Biggie? Like, this is real. Men are not given the same crap that women are about their bodies. Rick Ross did not make headline news for coming out on stage with his body out, but Lizzo did. Those are just two that I have. Y'all can tell me if that's Heavy D, right? Heavy D, thank you. Heavy D, right? Okay, so these are the things Nubian Wild see, yeah. Lovable teddy bear, Gerald Levert, right? And maybe I'm aging myself, right? But I'm an 80s baby, whatever. Gerald Levert, big teddy bear, right? It don't matter. They don't have to proximity, because a lot of, like, if we really were to have this conversation and we were to have this conversation in a real raw way, a lot of the men could care less about what brains you're bringing to the table as long as your body is good. So yeah, those women didn't care about their size. They cared about the money. But are men really caring about what brains and substance you're bringing to the table? And this is not all men, y'all. So don't DM me. This is not all men. This is for the topic. Not all men. But men could care less many times when they're just going after the body. Okay? So the things that impact body image and eating behaviors are systemic oppression. Dylan, I'm going to put you out. Or D-Lynn, I'm going to put you out. Systemic oppression and diet culture, right? Systemic oppression are those things that have made it difficult for us to access the same resources as our counterparts. Okay? So when we think about systemic oppression, we're talking about institutional racism. We're talking about food deserts. We're talking about lack of access. We're talking about medical disparities. We're talking about health disparities. We're talking about all of those things. So when we're talking about body image, this is more than an individual issue. This is more of a systemic institutional issue, okay? So the body, what diet culture will have us believe, though, is you just need to get your act together and you would be fine. You're just not strong enough. And many of us internalize that message of strongness and rightness that says, I am not right enough, instead of saying, well, the way that I grew up, growing up in a food desert or growing up in a place where there was a lack of resources and not being fully educated about this, has something to do with the choices that I make today. Instead of that narrative, we choose the individual narrative, which then continues to bring on guilt, shame, overwhelm, stress, and feelings of not being good enough. So when we think about how we feel about our bodies, we've got to be willing to reshape that narrative as well. Social media and media that we just talked about begins to shape how we engage with our bodies. The pictures that we see, the things that are promoted to us, the curated feeds, the curated experiences, the people who we see on our Explore page, the videos that we see, the magazines that we see, all of that stuff begins to impact how we view our own bodies. Trauma impacts our body image and eating behaviors. When we have experienced trauma, there tends to be a disconnect between our body cues and what we recognize within our bodies in ways that we take care of our bodies sometimes. So that can impact how you see your body. If you're a person who has been violated or who has struggled with trauma, that kind of thing, you might not particularly have this closeness or kind of connection with your body because there may be too many triggers, pain, and hurt there. Okay, or too many memories. Or you may be a person who has not learned how to recognize cues because of trauma. Trauma disconnects the mind from the body. And so we may have forgotten what those cues feel like. All of those things are impactful and have some type of influence and consequence on our body image and eating behaviors. I would even go as far as to say all forms of trauma, including racial trauma, tends to do that because your body remembers trauma and the experiences of it, and sometimes they are not differentiated in your brain, okay? Stress and mental health, all of those things continue to impact how we eat and how we feel about our bodies. I remember during COVID, and this is my truth and my personal story, right? When I get high stress, or I think it was somewhere around June, July or something, where things were just too high. Everything seemed like it was happening. I noticed in myself that one of my patterns when I get really stressed is that I zoom in or become laser focused on what I eat and working out. And I am finding out through my own therapy that one of the ways that I regulate my own self is through that laser focus kind of going in. Not particularly helpful for me in all instances, but that is one of the ways that I actually respond to my stress is by turning it on my body. Some people respond to stress by turning it on their food. Maybe they stop eating, maybe they eat. Some people respond to stress by turning it on their health or turning it on different things. And so you've got to recognize what your patterns are and what works and doesn't work for you, right? And so I'm going to take a moment here to read. Women always have to be seen as sexy, and sexy used to equal skinny. Yes. Now it has changed some. High stress. Yeah. And so we have to really have the conversation about what does it mean to look and feel sexy? Is that your definition or is that somebody else's definition? Would you be okay if you felt sexy and nobody ever thought you did or told you you did? So, these kind of conversations are worth having. Success, idealism, and upward mobility are also factors that can impact our body image and our eating behaviors. We tend to restrict when we want to be skinny, which is a complete miseducation of the way food and the body works. Or when we want to manipulate our body size, we tend to restrict. We tend to undereat, and we don't give our bodies enough fuel because many times we're miseducated around ways that the body actually uses food and what types of food we actually need. Okay? Right? It seems like y'all are so funny. It does seem like I have a lot of control over my body, but remember, you see what I show you. Always remember that people on social media, I don't care who they are, see what they show you. I do have a great sense of control, but I'm not in control all the time, and sometimes I have to reel it in. Okay? And it would be a lie for people to tell you that, oh, I got it all together. No, nobody does. Okay? So yes, while it really does depend on how we make those assessments too. Like, who looks like they have control over their body, right? Who looks like they have control over their body? Does being thin or close to thinness make you look more in control of your body, because that's also an internalized ideal of health that is related to skinniness. Okay, so I would like to dive into that a little bit more if you're interested. But what does it look like for somebody to look like they have control over their body? And this is one of the reasons also that this is not where you were going, but this is what happens for people too when they're struggling with eating disorders, is that they're applauded and praised around what their body looks like as their body is shrinking, without knowing that people are struggling with eating disorders. People are under eating, people are harming themselves to be thin, but they're praised, and so that behavior is reinforced. So I would be interested to hear, because many of us probably have this idea, oh my God, you're so healthy. But are we saying that because of my proximity to some type of body type, or some type of thinness, or some type of straight body size? Like, that would be an interesting conversation. Okay. And I like having these conversations. I think they're great. So the over-critiquing of our bodies is related to the good enoughness and perfectionism. I heard somebody say perfectionism is a cover-up for your flaws that you feel like you have. Okay? Perfectionism is a cover-up for the flaws that you feel like you have. You're trying to cover something up so nobody finds out. So we're running towards perfectionism as a means to keep our perceived inadequacies under wrap. So in body image, many of us turn to our body image as a way to overcorrect things that we feel like are wrong. And so we become perfectionistic around our bodies to cover up perceived wrongness, because bigger body types, larger body types, larger weight sizes have been attributed to kind of paired with wrongness. It has been devalued. It has been connected with inadequacies and flaws, right? So fatness has been looked at as something that is demeaning. So when we become perfectionistic about our bodies, we are trying to cover up this wrongness that we feel. And that wrongness isn't something that lives in your head. That wrongness is something that society makes us feel around our bodies. Think about the messages that we received last year when COVID hit and we were all in quarantine, right? The beginning. Don't gain the quarantine 15, or don't put on quarantine 15. And I still hear people now say, I got to get this quarantine weight off. I got to lose this quarantine 15, right? Because to gain weight in the middle of a crisis would make you wrong. To gain weight in the middle of a crisis would make you inadequate. To gain weight in the middle of a crisis would make you flawed. And so perfectionism says, okay, girl, let's not let them see this. Let's stay on the right side of things, because it's too harsh of a society that we live in that makes people feel like survival comes second to body size. Survival comes second to your weight, okay? Okay? Desire for proximity to normal. I get this. So if you're ever somebody who feels like, I just want to be normal, I just don't want to have to think about this, trust me, I get it. It is something that is harsh for all of us to have to be a part of, that everywhere we turn, our bodies are the ones that are being critiqued. Our bodies are the ones that people are saying they have a right to. Our bodies are the ones being put up for some type of political sort of debate, right? And just to be normal comes from a place of desperation out of all of the hell that we experience as women whose bodies have been critiqued since the beginning of time. So the need to just be normal is a need to just want to be left the hell alone. I just want to be left alone. I just want to fly under the radar. I just don't want anybody to feel like they have to say anything about my body. I don't even want to think about my body because it's too much. So I get that desire to be normal is there. Whatever that is, whatever we're told normal is, right? The medical industry makes us feel like that, because the first time you go into a doctor's office, the first thing they want to do is weigh you. Even if you're going in for something that's not weight related, they need to weigh you. They need to tell you that your foot sprain is related to your body size, and that if you just lose weight, all will be right with the world. I've had 2 of my clients tell me this over the last 2 weeks. that they went into their doctor and their doctor attributed their illness to their weight. And that if they just lose weight, they will be fine. Yeah, something's wrong. Manufactured fear. Quarantine 15 was a manufactured fear. Remember, manufactured means man-made. The first time you heard quarantine 15, think about what happened in your body. Think about what happened in your body in response to hearing that you needed not to be on that side of things when we got all out of this. Okay? There's memes about it. There are tweets about it. It's manufactured fear. This is what diet culture is. Instilling fear in you when there's no need for fear, there is no real threat. Tell me where the threat is. And this is kind of some work that we would do in therapy sometimes with clients. Where's the threat? Where is the threat? Is that an irrational fear? Many times it is. What does that mean about you if you do gain weight? These are the things we need to be diving into and peeling back. Okay? Sense of control. Many of us over-critique our bodies because in a split second, it gives us some control over where we are. If we just check and make sure, okay, girl, I ain't got too out of hand. Let me just check. Let me just check in with myself, make sure I ain't got too out of hand. Let me just compare to her over here. Okay, I ain't that bad. Many times we're trying to put ourselves back on the side of rightness, which historically now has been attributed to whiteness. And this is what this boils down to. So we're really reinforcing patriarchy and white supremacy that has been internalized and spread throughout our culture. And now we do it to ourselves. Okay. So these are the things that when we think about where we are, we've got to have serious conversations with ourselves about what this means for me. What am I reinforcing? What am I holding on to? And how does that serve me going forward? Now, what you do with your body is totally up to you. I want to preface this by saying your body is yours. Let's get to the root of why we want to make the changes to our bodies that we want to make. If you are there to have that conversation, you don't have to be there to have that conversation. That is what this conversation is about tonight. So I just want to empower you to know that you can do whatever you want with your body. But if you're feeling like you need to do that in order to be right or in order to be good enough, I want us to think about some of these things in addition to that we're thinking about with regard to changing our bodies. Okay? Okay. So body positivity for them, not me. I've been waiting to get to this slide. So we know the body positivity movement many times is a hot mess because it's been co-opted and actually taken over by people who don't look like us or look like me, I should say. But I've talked to many of people who were like, you know, they look beautiful. They look beautiful. But that ain't for me. So that's what this particular portion of the talk is about. Okay, that's what this particular portion of the talk is about. Let's take a step back for a minute, though, and talk about body positivity and where it is now. A lot of people feel excluded and isolated from the movement. One, because of co-opting. Two, because a large representation in the body positive movement now does not even include the people who it started out with. It doesn't even provide representation of the bodies that it started out with. The people who started this movement, right, has been taken over by people, again, who did not start it. Okay? And so now people feel isolated and excluded from a movement that they started. So for a large part of people, it is an us and them, like, no, that's not my thing anymore type of thing. I've heard that. So I want to make sure that I say that. Body types also, many different body types are not represented in the body positive movement. And people feel like that when it started, it was, but the more it kind of grew, it began to exclude more body types than include different body types. Also, people have some cognitive dissonance with the concept, and this is the main point that I want to speak about today. That a lot of people would feel like it is so good for her that she's loving her body and that she's really into kind of like doing things to show body love, but girl, that ain't gonna work for me. So we begin to, again, separate ourselves from something that is supposed to liberate us, because it does not fit within our realm of understanding on a broader level. It does not fit within our realm of understanding for ourselves it doesn't fit within that perfectionism. It doesn't fit within that rightness that we hold for ourselves when it comes to what our bodies look like. So we can be happy for them, cheer for them, but then find that it doesn't fit us. And so we never really move into the acceptance of it all, okay? And we can see how it would benefit them. We can see kind of like how free they feel. We can see how kind of liberated they feel. But that concept doesn't really work for me. I still gotta be snatched. And so there's some dissonance there around why that works for them and not me, and what that really is about. Why can't I see somebody else feel liberated, yet I'm looking at them and saying that's good for you, but not good enough for me? What is it that's really going on in us that we're still struggling with around being good enough? Okay. So a lot of us many times are dealing with some internal issues that have been planted there over time around us being flawed and not good enough, and that being perpetuated through our body and the ways that we eat and the ways that we look. Okay. Also, there's been messages through and through about if you just love yourself enough, you would be great. I am so guilty of this. When I started my business back in 2015, I am so guilty of pushing this message around self-love being attributed to taking care of your body, being attributed to losing weight. It's total BS. It's blaming and it's shaming. And it's actually very fat phobic, and it's actually very riddled throughout diet culture. That if you just love yourself enough, you can somehow get to the place where you can lose that weight, girl, where you can be perfect enough, and it's total BS. I would even go as far to say that using self-love as a reply or a remedy to people who have body image issues is complete. I would go as far as to say it's gaslighting. Like, it really is just a hot mess. It's patriarchy through and through. The remedy of self-love is super invalidating, and it deflects responsibility. It doesn't put responsibility on the structures and systems who need to take responsibility and be held accountable. When you tell somebody you just need to love yourself more, it doesn't put responsibility on the people who actually created this very unfair system. It doesn't put responsibility on racism. It doesn't do anything to account for the food deserts that this person grew up in. It doesn't do anything to account for the lack of access and resources. It makes them the problem for the system's bigger issue, right? It makes an individual person the problem without holding the system accountable. And that is complete BS, right? Loving yourself cannot cure racism. It cannot cure diet culture. It cannot cure the historical context of men feeling like they have a right to tell women what to do with their bodies. Okay? Prescription of self-love assumes that love of self is not there. If you have body image issues, the assumption when you tell somebody you just need to love yourself, or even when you say to yourself, I just need to love myself, there's an assumption that you don't. By some way of you looking how your body looks, you somehow don't love yourself enough. That if you just loved yourself enough, you would be, you somehow would manifest a different body. That is crazy when you sit and think about it, right? How can we assume that because a person lives in a larger body size, because you don't remember, you don't have to have body image issues just because you have a large body size. You can have body image issues and be thin, right? So just because a person has body image issues, it means that they don't love themselves. Totally false. Totally false, okay? What that does, though, is reinforces this idea that you're not good enough. You just need to have a little bit more self-love. You just need to have a little bit more. Do a little bit more. Do a little bit more. You're not doing enough. Right? You're not doing enough. Have a little bit more self-love. Love on yourself a little bit more. Take care of yourself a little bit more, girl. You got it. Just manifest it a little bit more. right? And it doesn't account for all of these issues that we see. And you can love yourself way more than anybody who we look at and kind of compare ourselves to, because many times the people who you're comparing yourself to are struggling as well. Remember that. Okay? And there's no amount of self-love. Self-love shouldn't even be in this equation. There's no amount of self-love that's going to shrink or up your body size. It has nothing to do with the other. But this is diet culture's reinforcement of value and worth being paired with how much weight you have on your body, how thin you are, what the number says on the scale. This is why many of us feel a sense of worthiness and value around the things that we eat and the things that we what the scale says. So if we eat a salad, we feel good, but if we eat a burger, we feel bad. Value and worth being tied up in food. Good food versus bad food equals good people versus bad people. Because the people who eat burgers and fries don't love themselves. The people who eat salads and avocado, they love themselves a lot. Do y'all see how that sounds like a commercial of just eat your Wheaties, you're going to be big and strong, right? Nothing to do with the other. Okay? Yep. So I just want us to, these are things for us to ponder as we move more into kind of like understanding who we are and empowering ourselves. What I want you to take away from this particular talk is what resonated with you throughout this talk and why. Why did certain parts resonate with you? What is it that you know is happening within you? What is that dissonance that you have there? What is that disconnect? Where are you experiencing cognitive dissonance and some contradictions on an internal level? These are questions that I really want you to take with you and really do some deeper level work on. What can you control that you're trying to control through your body image and food? Why? And if you can find a middle path between the things that are important to you as it relates to your health, ways that you want to look, and kind of what you're trying to kind of ascribe to on a larger level, on a broader diet culture level, trying to see if you can peel back some of that, take away some of that, add more of your own values into that. Take away diet culture's values around worthiness, around what you eat, being valuable because you ate an avocado today, and put more of your values in there. What are the things that are important to you? Energy, sleep, skin, endurance. Like, what are the things that are important to you? And do any of the things that you've been doing align you more with that or not? This is how we begin to create sustainable journeys of health and relationships with our bodies and food versus those that have been manufactured for us. I actually love salad and avocado. Love it. But when I start to think I'm better than somebody because I ate a salad and avocado, that's where we have a problem. Okay? That's where we have a problem. When I start to put myself on a pedestal when I eat a salad and avocado, but beat myself up when I eat pizza, that's where we have a problem. That's where we have a problem. Where we begin to look at somebody eating a donut and think that it's disgusting, but we see another person eating a salad and we think that they got it all together. That's where we have a problem. Yeah. Right? That's where we begin to have problems with ourselves. Okay? So we want to begin to see, is that valuable to me or has that been manufactured for me? Do I even like avocados? Do I even like kale? Or has that been a manufactured desire for me? Do I even like smoothies? Or do I want to chew my food? Do I even like juicing? Or do I want something else? Or have these been manufactured things that I've been told that I need to eat? Do I even like my curves? Yeah. Do I even like my thinness? Yeah. Or do I feel like I need to look a certain way because somebody else told me that that's attractive? Do I feel strong? Can I run? Can I jump? Can I play with my kid? Yeah. Okay. So is that good enough for you? Like, what's the middle path there between those things that you can do versus those things that you want for yourself? And are those things that you want for yourself shaped more by diet culture than your values? If they're shaped more by diet culture and media, we want to see how we can begin to shape them more by our values. And that's going to do it for us now, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.